For more on the energy market in Europe, I spoke to Carl Larry, a sales director at Wood Mackenzie-Genscape, and I began asking him about the key factors that's driving energy prices down.
As quickly as we got into that situation where the prices were so high, is as quickly as we got into the prices are so low. The black swan effect of Russia. Now we have the black swan effect of lower temperature or warmer temperatures, easing inflation, and easing industrial use. So it's just kind of funny. You never know when these things are coming, but they do, and now we have to deal with them.
But something is going on. Either the analysts are all wrong, including yourself, or consumers have really stepped up, and I guess they're wearing sweaters, and we're not going to turn on the heat, and they're just saving a lot of electricity. Something is happening. This doesn't make any sense at all that you've got the chaos going on in Europe, and prices are below what they were from before the conflict. Is there something that the international community is doing? Is it something the U.S. is doing, or is it something that Russia is or isn't doing?
Well, I think, when all this started, we saw this big movement of LNG, liquefied natural gas, coming out of the U.S., coming out of Qatar, coming out of Australia, and really trying to make up as much as they could. So we kind of overshot it, and now with Europe, there's not a lot of places to store this natural gas. It's not a lot of places we can unload it and bring it back to gas form. So, we were more than prepared to deal with it, but now we're trying to have to find a balance and figure out where that's going to be.
Right, and the people I can imagine not happy about this is probably members of OPEC, including Russia, by the way, because the high oil prices helped in part fund the conflict that much of the world is against, right? And so now that the price is below that, that's got to be adding additional pressure on Russia and a number of other gas-producing countries.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, think about it when back in the 70s when we heard, Saudis talking about oil as a weapon. And, this is what Russia might have had in their back pocket, thinking about, we're going to go make this move and we're going to have some kind of strategy behind oil and gas where we'll need people to kind of really, want us and need us. And now that's kind of gone. It's not that weapon they thought they were going to have. And so, we're at an inflection point here where, something has to move. Either they move or we move, or there's more than just energy right now.
Carl, when we have you back in a few weeks, what will we be talking about? Are these low prices here to stay? Because clearly it's very positive if you're worried about inflation. I mean, we're all been begging for prices to come back down, so consumers are going to be happy. Much of Western Europe is going to be extremely happy, and probably the Americas are very happy too. Are they going to stick?
Well, we never know what's going to happen with weather, but when you talk about economics, when we talk about will inflation stay low, will demand rise, and then there's that outlier of what could happen in the energy industry just overall. I mean, in the U.S. we've having issues with refineries and pipelines, and so something like that we're not seeing that could happen, it usually will happen, but it's really going to depend on how the economy works. It's what it always comes down to. We're a demand-driven economy now, or at least in the energy industry, and we're going to have to keep an eye on that. So it could be higher. But I mean, even at these levels, it's still relatively higher than we've seen in the past few years, just not that high.
And I'll throw on there, although it feels like 90 degrees today in D.C., just 2 weeks ago, we were near 0 degrees throughout half the country, right? And there were some concerns that would also tax the nat gas capacity, because a lot of people need to heat their homes through nat gas. But that seemed to have weathered that too. And so I don't know what else there could be. We've got generally warmer weather in Europe, and now apparently in the U.S. as well. So if this trend continues, wouldn't the expectation be for even lower prices and ultimately lower inflation, which I hate to say it, but probably good for the economy?
It could. The key factor, again, will that demand rise? Will we see people going back to work and we have to heat commercial buildings? Will we see, industrial use pick up because rates are staying, stable, and maybe, we can get an economic rebound, and not just the U.S. but globally. So it's those things that really we're trying to keep an eye on. I mean, as much as I've done oil and gas most of my career, economics are a big factor going forward.
Are the producers and the drillers And all the people that's involved in the entire supply chain process for drilling for oil and nat gas, are they going to get hurt by this, or prices are high enough to where they'll still make money?
Well, let's look back at the past year and you look at the majors have made some really, really good money. Some profits have been through the roof. I think the CEO of Chevron said it recently. He said, yeah, we had a great, Q4, a great 2022, but if we average this out, it's not as great as everybody thinks it is. And I think they could see some pain if it goes lower, but I think they're prepared for it now more so than they were last year.